Let's start with that breaking story, the developing story we've seen over the last hour or so, because Estonia's government says 3 Russian military jets entered NATO airspace without permission on Friday morning and stayed there for nearly 12 minutes. In a statement on X, a NATO spokesman said NATO responded immediately and intercepted the Russian jets which had violated Estonian airspace, adding this is yet another example of reckless Russian behaviour and NATO's ability to respond. The Foreign Minister of Estonia said the incident was the most brazen violation yet of its airspace and the 4th this year. He said Russia was increasingly testing its neighbours' borders with its aggression. The incident comes after a week in which more than 20 drones violated Polish airspace, prompting NATO jets to shoot some down, and a further Russian drone incursion over Romanian territory close to the Ukrainian border. So let's get immediate reaction from Vitaly Shevchenko, BBC Monitoring's Russia editor and host of Ukrainecast. And Vitaly, tell us more, because this doesn't appear again to be some sort of mistake. It is there in Estonian airspace for a considerable amount of time, isn't it?
Of course, there will be people who will be asking the question of, could this be an honest mistake? But I would argue that this would be giving Russia too much benefit of the doubt, following a clear pattern that has been emerging over the past weeks. Last week, 10 days ago, at least 19 Russian drones violated Polish airspace. Then another drone entered Romania's airspace. So now we have these 3 Russian MiG-31 jets over Estonia, and that is the pattern that is emerging of Russia testing, well, basically how much it can get away with. And frankly, despite all the expressions of concern and statements such as the one we've heard from Kaja Kallas, the EU's foreign policy chief, that the EU stands in full solidarity with Estonia, this doesn't really amount to a reason for Vladimir Putin to fear any sort of consequences following these apparent attempts to violate NATO airspace. So this is one reason why Russia's neighbours, such as Estonia and Ukraine, have been saying that more needs to be done to stop Russia from carrying out such violations.
And that is repeated by Ursula von der Leyen from the EU, saying that every provocation has to be responded to with determination while investing in stronger operations in our eastern flank. What does she mean by that?
Well, it's the best the EU can try, because it's a collective body which is governed by consensus. So if there's any opposition within the EU to stronger action against Russia, there's deadlock. And to give it one example of what happened in the past, because the Estonian Foreign Minister Margus Tsahkna said this is the worst violation of 4 this year. In May this year, the Estonian Navy attempted to detain a Russian tanker which they suspected to be part of Russia's so-called shadow fleet, which Russia uses to avoid Western sanctions. So when Estonia attempted to stop that tanker, board it, Russia sent a fighter jet into Estonian airspace. And what happened? Well, not much. Just as now, back then, there were expressions of concern, but will they stop Vladimir Putin? As we can see, well, they haven't, and they probably will not.
Vitaly, thanks very much. Let's bring in Mikey Kay, host of the Security Brief here on BBC News and a former British military strategist. Mikey, your take on this, because I listed the number of incidents just over the last few days in terms of the seriousness of this. You only have to look at some of the comments from EU officials, from Estonian officials, from NATO officials.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the first time this has happened, Matthew. May was an example where 2 Su-35s Russian were launched against shadow tankers coming through Estonian territorial waters. That was a brief incursion. but this looks like it was 12 minutes. And these aren't Su-35s; these are MiG-31s. So they've got a speed of about Mach 2.8, which is at one point one of the fastest fighters in the world. It's got an incredible range on it. It's too crude. And at the moment, you have Baltic Air policing inside Amani Air Base in Estonia, which is being policed by Italian F-35s. F-35 has a speed of about Mach 1.6. So, this is a inside territorial airspace. Territorial airspace goes out to about 12 nautical miles off the coast. It's not the first time it's happened. And this now is with the MiG-31, which is a hugely fast jet, which can outrun effectively the F-35 only in terms of speed. But the F-35 obviously have air-to-air missiles, which can conduct what's called BVR, beyond visual range. So there is QRA. Baltic air policing has been occurring since 2014, since the Baltic states joined NATO in 2004. So NATO is prepared for this, but the fact that it's happening more regularly, I think, is a bit of a worry.
Yes, the phrase being used is that Russia clearly testing the resolve of NATO. When they talk about bolstering the eastern flank, what do they actually mean by that? And in effect, do all roads ultimately lead back to Donald Trump taking a tougher stance with Russia?
Yeah, Matthew, I've spoken to people inside Estonia, inside Lithuania. There is a real concern about preparations for war inside that country, which doesn't seem to be taken as seriously as the US when it comes to, as you say, bolstering that eastern flank. I was recently reporting on Op Chessman. Op Chessman is UK Typhoons and JS-39 Gripens from Sweden. They were operating together at an airbase very close to Kaliningrad, which is the Russian exclave. And they were intercepting Russian jets and military aircraft coming out of Kaliningrad on a regular basis. So bolstering that eastern flank when it comes to incursions of airspace, whether it's drones or fighters, is something that, NATO really needs to step up on. Yes, there is Baltic air policing. Yes, it's been going on since 2014. Yes, it's in Lithuania and Estonia, Amani Air Base. But NATO needs to basically realize what's going on here and posture for the threat accordingly.
Mikey Kay, thanks for the latest, and more reaction is coming in all of the time. So we're keeping an eye on that story. It is clearly developing. We'll bring you more as we get it.